If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, where the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, oh, from sea to shining sea. From Detroit down to Houston, and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, oh, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. God bless this country. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless, please bless the USA.
God bless the USA, and God bless all of us. Welcome to another edition of the Daily All Hat No Kettle News Rodeo here on YouTube, Twitch, Trovo, and DLive. Not necessarily in that order, of course. And I am, of course, your host, Hat. Good day to you all. Steely Dan and I are chatting in the Trovo live chat, and have to say, I really feel good right now. I mean, I feel great. I don't often have this kind of an energy and ebullience at the same time. And it is a very nice feeling, and I hope it comes through today. I'm hoping I'm able to share it with you. Things are going well. I had a great stream this morning, even though last minute, I was up too late again last night, screwing around, doing things I shouldn't have been doing, and missed my bedtime again by 2 hours. So this morning it was basically impossible for me to get up because my meds last 8 hours. And if I take them 2 hours later, then I'm 2 hours out of getting out of them, if you get my point. So I was struggling mightily just to get into this chair. I was able to start pretty much on time, but I had not done anything except get out of bed and get into the chair, which means, among other things, I didn't put those in. I didn't put my teeth in. So I start by saying, hello, good morning. You know, sounded awful. Sounded this awful. Second time, I think this week, at least in the last week, in the last 7 days, that I've started the morning show without having my teeth in. Very embarrassing. I almost need a spare set to keep right next to me on the desk here, just in case. Pretty hilarious. But we got through the stream just fine. My mods have been straightened out. They are working awesome, just flat out awesome. Lee, Great Lee, whatever you want to say, Big Lee. So life is good. And I have to also say this is going to be another sweep show, as I have since named them, where I just grab the stories as we go. Also talking with Steely Dan about that. It takes a lot of pressure off me doing it this way, because the previous way, I spent hours grabbing stories, reading them, putting them in order, and then having to rush through story after story to fit in the ones I found important. And it really puts a lot of stress on me that way. Not that I'm complaining. I was obviously, I did it for what, a year and a half, so it's not like it was killing me. But the sweep method gives me so much more time between the morning stream and the afternoon stream. I can actually play around with stuff. And it's nice. It's really nice. So I really want to hear from you guys as to what you think of this sweep format. If you don't like it, I'll do my best to go back to the old way. Again, stress is part of life. I'm not immune to it, and I'm not adverse to it. But the less I can have of it, the better. So we'll continue on. All right, enough of my babbling. Let's get on with the show. First, I picked our first Babylon Bee bookend on the one on the left already because it's just too perfect. This is from their politics section. Liberals praised de Blasio for barring 65% of black New York City residents from society. We have an insert of His Honor himself in a group, inset, I should say, into a group of what looked to be angry young white men doing the Roman salute. Dateline New York City, New York. Compassionate progressives across the country are praising New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio for his, quote, bold and courageous decision to bring segregation to New York. Quote, studies show that 65% of black New York residents are unvaccinated, so this will affect them disproportionately, and that's actually a good thing, said de Blasio in a statement. Again quoting, we just want everyone to be healthy, and anyone who refuses to get the vaccine should be considered less than human and be excluded from participating in society. It's the compassionate and scientific thing to do. Close quote. The new separate but equal for public health policy will take effect next week. The mayor has also said he will be supporting increased police funding and presence in black communities to enforce vaccine segregation, which will definitely not have any side effects like increased deadly police encounters and brutality. Quote, just to be clear, this is not Jim Crow. This is more like Jim Crow's nicer public health defending cousin, John Crow. This is all about safety and science because we're the government and we care, said de Blasio. Experts say, let me scroll that up for you. Experts say the new ordinance will actually have little effect since no one lives in New York anymore except Bill de Blasio and Brian Stelter. Everyone else has moved to Florida. Well, Sean Hannity's still there too, although he keeps saying he's inches away from leaving. He had Governor DeSantis on last night, and DeSantis really twisted the knife in at the end about how great Florida is and how so many New Yorkers have moved there and continue to. Case in point, to talk about people moving, I know my niece, sorry, she's my cousin. She's so much younger than I always think of her as a niece. But my cousin who lives in Florida near Fort Myer, she bought her house, I think it was about $475, and this was 10 years ago, I should say, and she paid, I think, most of it in cash. She had never owned a home before, had always lived at home with her parents, had a great job, never went out, never married, and she just saved and saved and saved. So wham, she drops all that cash on the house. I didn't like that. I said, get a mortgage. They're cheap. You'll make so much more money in the market than you will on this house. Boy, was I wrong, because that neighborhood now, the average home price is about $850,000. So she's almost doubled her investment. It's getting harder and harder and harder to find a new home in a nice neighborhood in Florida because they're getting snapped up like that. They're just flying off the shelves. And Bill de Blasio, once again, making that possible. I understand that New Jersey is also talking about shutting down their schools again. So families from New Jersey are starting to look very seriously at Florida because school starts in Florida, I believe, August 20th. That's just a couple weeks away. And people are scrambling to try to find a way to establish residency to get their kids in school. Steely Dan says something very kind. He says, do what works for best for you and makes you happy. You're not Johnny Carson and no one expects you to be. That is very, very proper and true and kind. Thank you. I am not Johnny Carson, and I never will be. And and obviously, if I can't do a show 5 days a week, I'm never going to be considered a professional. This is quite a bit of a hobby. In fact, I was talking with my wife earlier about this very thing, and she said, it's important for you to get out there so you can see everybody. This is my interaction with people. I just don't get out of the house. I need oxygen all the time. I'm weak, so I don't get out as much as I used to. And I don't drive anymore, so it's hard for me to go places. So this is kind of what I do. And believe me, it really hurt yesterday not to be here. I mean, I was in a lot of pain, folks. I was in a lot of pain. My head was splitting. It didn't go away until I finally went to sleep. But so I apologize for not being here. And again, I appreciate everyone's concern and well wishes, and of course, forbearance as always. And Scully says in the DLF chat, pros from Dover. Ah, yes, the one of the greatest lines in movie history, the MASH movie that started the TV series. Donald Sutherland and Elliot Gould, in really the performance of their lives, they are given a assignment to go to Seoul to perform a basically minor thoracic surgery on a high-ranking officer, some general, if I'm not mistaken. And they say, look, anyone can do this. And the guys, and they were told, no, they demanded you to. You've got to be there. You're the best chest crackers in Korea. I think that's a quote, actually. So they get there. They bring their golf clubs. And they walk into the hospital to check in with the nurse at the desk. And they have their clubs on their back, both of them. And I can't remember. I believe it was Donald Sutherland looks at the nurse and says, we're the pros from Dover. And he gives her a litany of things that they want. What kind of scrub nurses they want, instruments, bada, 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 bada. And one of the things they say is, and we both want a steak. I don't remember if they said a porterhouse specifically, but they said we both want a steak. And the nurse listens to all that machine gun. And then she blanks for a second and then says, so how do you want your steak? I mean, just pow, professional. I used to work with people like that all the time. I loved it. One of the happiest times of my life. So thank you, Steely Dan, and very much thank you, Skull Cram, for bringing back that memory. That's a very, very dear memory to me. Thank you. All right, let's get to it, folks. My personal conceit, the market. And as you can see, the Dow had a big break at the end of the day, sweeping up. It was hanging around the high 34,000s all day, and then started to break up into the 35,000 and held there fairly steadily. And then at the end of the day, broke up and managed to cross in at 35,064 and change. That's a almost 0.8% increase for the Dow today. I didn't look at the market yesterday. Obviously, I was trying not to look at anything. So it seems that for that to be that big of an increase and still not be in record territory shows that yesterday's close was pretty bad. Pretty bad. The S&P 500 was up 0.6%, and the NASDAQ also up almost 0.8% today. almost at 14,900, closing at 14,895 and change. Gold is still trying its best to not go below 1,800 an ounce, $4 over that mark at present. Crude oil is still below $70 a barrel, although had a dollar increase so far in its mark. It's currently at $69.19 per barrel of West Texas Intermediate sweet crude. But the big winner on the day is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is doing its best to get up to the 41,000 mark for the first time since its crash back in June. And it's looking pretty strong. It's right now as we speak at 40,921 and change and climbing. It's a 3.5% increase over its previous mark. So a good day for the crypto crowd. We'll see how that works out over time. You never know. Okay, so let's go ahead and start refreshing some stories here and see what we've got. All right. I don't even want to look at Cori Bush. She's the ugliest congresswoman in history, and she's an ugly human being. So the face matches the attitude, and I will not give her any moment of my day. 3 people I've refused to cover: Cori Bush, AOC, and Fauci. They don't deserve my time. And, let's see here. All right, here we go. This is out of California. Again, the Daily Wire by Jeffrey K. Wood. Executive order requires 110,000 LA County employees to show proof of full vaccination. All right. Hilda Solis, a former labor secretary in the Obama administration, who is currently chair of the powerful LA County Board of Supervisors, issued an executive order on Wednesday evening mandating county workers show proof of full vaccination against the Chinese Communist Party virus. Excuse me. LA County employs approximately 110,000 people, most of whom must provide evidence of immunization, easy for me to say, no later than October 1st. There are limited exceptions for medical and religious purposes. With more than 10 million residents, LA is the nation's most populous county. Quoting the statement, "We are once again demonstrating to employers across the county that we are prepared to lead by example and set a standard for slowing the spread, just as we did when reinstating indoor masking, which has since been emulated by varying degrees by the CDC, the state, and localities across the country." Okay, I have one question, by the way, about the indoor masking. If it's working so well, then why are you demanding everyone be vaccinated? Just curious. Just curious. I'd like to know where the science comes in on that. All right, let's see here. Oh yeah, this is important. One of the deaths in LA County this week, right here, a child under the age of 12 who had underlying conditions. I want to make that point very, very strongly. According to several doctors, high-level physicians, people in tune with what's going on with this disease right now, several of them that I have heard on interviews, the CDC has yet to show any data that any of the approximately 350 children under the age of 18 who have died of, or with, I should say, COVID, we don't know which, of course, since last year when they first started tracking these numbers, they have yet to show any data that any of them did not have at least one severe underlying condition, because they haven't tracked that data. Or they're lying that they're not collecting it. We really don't know. And as I understand it, according to my wife earlier today, CNN has been screaming about a 12-year-old dying of COVID. All right, excuse me. Never mind. I don't want to get into it. Maybe it was. Oh no, no, it was. It was. I'm sorry, it wasn't my wife. It was Laura Ingraham last night. It was Laura Ingraham. They look the same. But Laura Ingraham was talking about it, and so they're saying, look, children are dying of this. Children are dying of this. More children are dying of basically everything else than they are of having COVID, much less dying from it. And again, we don't even know what those numbers are. So this is what's going on in LA County. All right, what next? What next? All right. Kerry family private jet has taken 16 flights in 7 months. Well, there's no surprise. They're the important people. They have to go by private jet. They can't be slumming around in first class with people who can afford $1,000 for a ticket. They need to be in private so they don't have to wear a mask and can sip expensive scotch that you can't get off the cart because all the cart has is Dewar's, and Dewar's is crap. All right. Here's Too Little Too Late. Also from the Daily Wire by Jeffrey Kaywood. Local health officials in Mexico have vaccinated hundreds of transient migrants and asylum seekers against the virus this week as they wait to enter the U.S. San Diego Tribune reported the Baja California Secretary of State allocated hundreds of Pfizer vaccines for migrants who have been staying at a migrant camp near the El Chaparral border crossing, as well as 7 shelters in Tijuana. As Governor Jaime Bonilla has said, Baja California is a sanctuary for migrants, and we are going to vaccinate everyone. Perez Rico has reportedly allocated more than 1,300 Pfizer doses to immunize adults 18 or older at the shelters. Almost 800 migrants were vaccinated on Tuesday. According to officials, vaccinations continued Wednesday. Nurses reportedly urged migrants to return for a second dose through a loudspeaker. Okay, so they're obviously using the Pfizer as opposed to the J&J, which would have just been one jab, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. Continuing, while more than 4,000 migrants of different nationalities are waiting in the Mexican border state, quote, Tuesday was the first time authorities opted to take the vaccine directly to the El Chaparral, where it is estimated that more than 1,200 are staying. Many migrants agreed that one of the reasons they wanted to get vaccinated was to be ready if the U.S. requested the vaccine as part of asylum. Said Hector Cruz, 24, an asylum seeker from Honduras, I'm afraid of being sent back. Now that I'm vaccinated, I'm more prepared for whatever is next in the process. Dude, ICE has been shut down. Hector, you're in. Don't worry, you're in. ICE has basically stopped deporting anyone. So don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You'll take away a job from a low-skill American. You'll make half the money, and you'll send 90% of it back to Honduras, and that will be you helping our economy, according to the Democrats. Okay. Oh yeah. By the way, let me go to this story right here. Let me just jump to it. This is a Twitter thread from Bill Malugan, who's with Fox LA, and has been doing massive reporting on the border. Let me just blow up this video for you here. Sorry about that. I didn't know it had sound. Pardon. I'm sorry for your ears. Let me back it up here. This is a group of migrants being let off a bus at the border town. This happens 10 to 12 times a day. And look at that. That's 2 buses and a border patrol van. And there's more coming from across the street. This is a clown car of migrants. And they're being put into emergency shelters with just a bunch of beds. No couches, no chairs. I don't know where they're supposed to get their meals. MCallen had to set up an emergency tent shelter. They have 7,000 migrants so far that have been dropped off there by Customs and Border Patrol under direct orders of Mayorkas and the Department of Homeland Security, and they are massively infected with the virus. The city has declared basically a health emergency. None of them are vaccinated, and their testing is showing something like a 10 to 30%. It's been it depends on where you get the numbers, but upwards at least a 10% positivity rate among the migrants and illegal migrants. And New York City shut down the schools earlier this year, when it went above 3%. So it gives you a little bit of context. Let's see what else Bill's got here. Yeah, here's a picture of the emergency tent farm. Let me see where he's got. Oh, he had it in that picture, or excuse me, in that tweet. Hang on a second. Here we go. So this is darn, Bill, stop doing that to me. I can't blow it up any bigger than it is, but this is emergency tent structures the city set up for a couple hundred of the migrants out of the 7,000 they've gotten so far since February, and there's nowhere for them to go. They're just hanging out on the street, basically. Catholic Charities is supposed to be putting them up in hotels, but they ran out of space weeks ago. Now, the thing is, this went up just basically out of the blue with no input from the neighborhood. And the NIMBYs came out because this isn't that far away from a residential neighborhood. At least the first one wasn't. I don't know if this is the new one, but the new one was put up on county property away from the homes. So perhaps this is the newest area. But as you can see, it's on concrete. That's nothing more than a concrete pad. No grass. I don't know where the bathrooms are supposed to be. I don't know how they're going to get those places air conditioned. Because again, MCallen's right down there on the border. It gets over 100 degrees this time of year with no trouble at all. All right. On Tuesday, the Washington Post reported, quote, the Biden administration is preparing to begin offering vaccines to migrants in U.S. custody along the border where illegals are crossing at their highest levels in over 2 decades, and health officials are struggling with soaring numbers of infections, according to 2 DHS officials with knowledge of the plan. The Post also wrote, under the broad outlines of the new plan, DHS would vaccinate migrants soon after they cross into the U.S. as they await processing by Customs and Border Patrol. Okay, are they being seen by a doctor to determine if they have a pre-existing medical condition, including previous infection that could cause a complication from the vaccine? That's just common sense. Of course, this administration is the most lacking in common sense of any administration. In fact, I take that back. It's not a lack of common sense. It's a lack of caring for the truth as opposed to optics. Because every problem this administration has created, bar none, is because they threw away, and not only threw away, but did the opposite of any Trump policies that were working when they took office. Keystone XL, killed. Gas prices shot up. new taxes on the energy sector, restrictions on oil and gas leases. Prices shot up. She turned off every border action we did to shut down the flow, like we saw back in 2019, including working relationships with Honduras, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And this administration threw all that out the window. Harris has only been to Guatemala of the three, was there for a couple days, and has so far not released one detailed plan aside from, we're going to send them a lot of money, which has been proven to work so well in the past. Remember when Trump said, you're not getting any more money unless you stop these caravans? Bam, there wasn't one more caravan after that. They stopped. Biden pulled all that out. Look what happened. But it's not only, the thing is though, people keep thinking it's just brown people. It's just people from the Golden Triangle, maybe some from northern South America. No, they're coming from everywhere. They're coming from as far away as Argentina and South America, definitely Chile, and they're also streaming in from Europe and Eastern Europe and the Middle East and Indonesia and China and Korea, not necessarily Korea, sorry. If the North Koreans could get out, they would be leading the way. You have to walk across the Gobi Desert to get out of North Korea. To get out of China. And they've patrolled that now because it's so dangerous. But there's a very, very strong anti-North Korea defector, a woman who grew up in North Korea and left because she was so hungry. She didn't know anything about America except that it was bad, that all Americans are B-words. That is a chant that North Korean school children say every day. Remember, in communist countries, you chant certain things over and over and over again to just keep the brainwashing going. And one of them is Americans are B-words and Americans are monsters. And so she wasn't dreaming of America. She was dreaming of food. So she bribed someone and to get her and her mom over the river into China. I believe it's the Pyongyang, and they got there and were immediately sold into sex slavery. She was, I believe, 14. 13. And she was a virgin, so she got a higher price than her mom. And she was a sex slave for 2 years, and then was rescued by a Christian charity organization working in China, and got her out. Got her out of sex slavery, but she couldn't get out of China. It's a very difficult story because it's so involved. Couldn't get out of China the normal way. They wouldn't let her go because certainly she didn't have the social score that would allow her to travel. Being the lowest of low that she was, according to the egalitarian Chinese communists. So she literally walked across the Gobi Desert to get out of China. Folks, you think the American Southwest is inhospitable? Read up on the Gobi Desert. It makes the American Southwest look like the Appalachian Trail. Now China patrols the Gobi Desert to keep what happened with her from happening again, because they can't allow anybody to get out. So she made her way to America after studying in South Korea, getting a degree, and went to Columbia University, and I think she got a degree in literature. But she said, and she's done interviews all over the country, and she was on Tim Pool just not too long ago. She said that Columbia, the indoctrination there against America was worse than what she encountered in North Korea. I'm not kidding you. That's a direct quote. What they were saying about America at Columbia, a Ivy League school, she said was worse than what she was being taught in North Korea. And she could barely get out of there fast enough. She feels she wasted every dollar she spent getting, I think she wound up with a master's. A master's, because she got her bachelor's overseas. She got a master's in literature, and she says she wasted every dollar because how horrible they talked about America. Horribly, pardon me, they talked about America. Okay, let me catch up with the chats. Steely Dan said earlier, including police, LA County. Yeah, that would include police for the LA County, the county sheriff's office. They're all county employees. Okay. Let's see. What was 1892? Was that on a shirt that I missed, Scully? Once again, the DLive timestamp is turned off. Why does DLive keep doing that to me? That's the strangest thing. It's the strangest thing. But Scully says, I guess that was on a T-shirt. In 1892, Ellis Island begins receiving immigrants. That was the 1st of January. And also in 1892, Lizzie Borden killed her mom and dad. Do you think that's why he had that date on his shirt? Curious. His shirt. I'm sorry I didn't see that earlier, Scully. If you could let that on, I'd like to know. Or let me know who that was. I'd appreciate it. But anyway, so that's what we've got going on there in Cali. Let's see. Brian Stelter calls out Chris Cuomo for silence on brother's sexual harassment allegations. Another person I refuse to cover is Brian Stelter, except to point out his horrible ratings. Let's see. Support for Newsom recall over 50%. Here we go. Track and field legend Carl Lewis rips U.S. team for performance in men's 4x100 relay. And this is by Joe Morgan, news and commentary writer for a sports writer, as a matter of fact, for the Daily Wire. Let's see here. Excuse me. For the 4th straight Olympics, the U.S. men's team will fail to medal in the 4x100 meter relay after placing 6th in qualifying on Thursday. Carl Lewis, a 10-time Olympic medalist, can no longer stay silent. Quoting Lewis on Twitter, "The U.S. team did everything wrong in the men's relay. The passing system is wrong, athletes running the wrong legs, and it was clear that there was no leadership. It was a total embarrassment and completely unacceptable for a USA team to look worse than the AAU kids I saw." That would be the American Amateur. Sprinters Fred Curley and Ronnie Baker bobbled the baton pass between the second and third leg, causing Baker to have to slow down, and the U.S. team was unable to recover as China, Canada, Italy, Germany, and Ghana all qualified for the final. Lewis said in a phone interview with USA Today Sports, this was a football coach taking a team to the Super Bowl and losing 99-0 because they were completely ill-prepared. Continuing the quote, "It's unacceptable. It's so disheartening to see this because it's people's lives. We're just playing games with people's lives. That's why I'm so upset. It's totally avoidable. And America is sitting there rooting for the U.S., and then they have this clown show. I can't take it anymore. It's just unacceptable. It's not hard to do the relay." Let's see. After the race, one of the runners was asked how much the team practiced for the race and said, "Don't know," with another runner saying, "Not much." Lewis said, quote, "I've never seen Ronnie Baker run a turn in my life. Go back and watch the third leg. Look at him. He looks like he's running on ice because he's never run a turn. He doesn't run the end of the 200 meter, so why is he running a turn when he never runs a turn? Okay, so track and field lingo here, folks. I was a track manager both in middle school and high school. Running a turn means that you're running on the part of the track where it curves, like, long race. The lengths of the track are 100. The straights are 100 meters each side of the oval, and then I think the turns are 50 meters, if I'm not mistaken. That part I don't remember. We didn't run Olympic-sized tracks back that long ago in middle school and high school, but Olympic size, that's pretty sure those are the turns. So if you never run anything longer than the 100-meter sprint, then you won't know how to run when you're across the curve, or as Lewis puts it, the technical term, running a turn. And so if you don't practice how to plant your feet as your centripetal force is pushing you out from the away from your turn, because remember, your body wants to go straight and the force wants to push you out, and so you're compensating for all that. And if you're not planting your feet properly, if you're not moving your legs properly, you're going to lose a lot of speed in that turn. And that's what Lewis is talking about right here. I've never seen Ronnie Baker run a turn in my life, meaning he doesn't know how to run anything longer than a 100-meter race. Okay, Lewis continued, quote, "We've been talking about this forever. The relay program has been a disaster for years because there's no leadership and no system. When I said everything is wrong, it is. If you break it down, people were in the wrong legs. Obviously, they were not taught how to pass the baton in those legs. It's just simple things like that. I watched it. I'm not blaming the athletes so much. This was leadership." Continuing, the U.S. relay team has had years of struggles in the race. In 2008, Darvis Patton and Tyson Gay dropped the baton on the final leg. I remember that one. I watched that. And in 2012, the U.S. team had the silver medal taken away after Gay was found to be guilty of doping. That I didn't remember. In 2016, the men's team was disqualified after a baton pass took place in an area where it was not allowed. I remember that one too. Okay, finishing up with Lewis. "I'm so frustrated because I'm so passionate about those 3 letters, USA. That's why I love my country. I love winning. That's what gets me. How can we let the United States down so much in an unacceptable way like that?" And since Joe Morgan is new to the Daily Wire, allow me to read you his bona fides. Most recently, Morgan covered the Clippers, Lakers, and the NBA for Sporting News. And he is now the sports reporter for the Daily Wire. So again, folks, these outlets are increasing their reach day by day. The Daily Wire is getting involved in a lot of entertainment production. Remember, they've got a movie deal working with Gina Carcano. I suddenly forgot Gina's last name. The woman who got booted off The Mandalorian. I've suddenly forgotten her last name. God, that's embarrassing. But they're working with her on a movie. She's picking the script. She's the lead producer on it. It's something she's always wanted to do. That came up last year. And again, they published the movie Run, Hide, Fight. Great movie by all accounts. And they've started the new TV show Candace. Remember that started just a few months ago. And they changed Andrew Klavan's schedule. He now does one show a week, Friday afternoons. It's more like an hour and a half, an hour and 45, as opposed to the old 40, 45-minute show. And it's incredible. I miss seeing him every day, but he has more room to expound on certain things. And he is such a smart and insightful person. He's the literary version of Victor David Hanson. I always say Davis. Victor David Hanson. He's the Victor David Hanson who wrote fiction. And by the way, if you like thrillers, Clavin's Dynamite Road series is amazing, absolutely amazing. I couldn't stop reading it. Yeah, Scully says you lean in. That's absolutely part of it, Scully. You do lean in, absolutely. But it's also foot placement too. Not as much in here as I thought it would. You have to turn your feet a certain way. If you plant them straight ahead, then you start to skid in a sense. So that's a problem too. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. Russian Congressman sues Rachel Maddow over Russian allegations. This is by Ben Johnson from the Daily Wire. Devin Nunes filed a lawsuit against NBC Universal on Tuesday over claims that Maddow made, suggesting that Nunes did not turn over a package he received from a pro-Russian Ukrainian lawmaker in late 2019. Quote, this is a Maddow blog, quote, how do Republicans keep Devin Nunes on as the ranking member of the intelligence community given his unexplained interactions with Andriy Derkach? That's the show's official account. Quoting, Congressman Nunes has refused to answer questions about what he received from Andriy Derkach. He has refused to show the contents of the package to other members of the intelligence community, Maddow told MSNBC viewers. He has refused to hand it over to the FBI, which is what you should do if you get something from somebody who is sanctioned by the U.S. as a Russian agent. Close quote. But in a 17-page legal complaint, Nunes states that Maddow knew that he turned the package over to the FBI and alerted then Attorney General William Barr at the time, but she chose to run the segment without asking him for a comment. Quote, these statements were a product of Maddow's imagination, said his lawyers Madhu S. Sekaran and Stephen S. Biss. Again quoting, she made them up out of whole cloth in order to impute intentional wrongdoing to Nunes. They also said, although Maddow made it appear as if she had direct knowledge of facts, she did not have one shred of evidence to support the statements. The statements falsely accused Nunes of criminal conduct, obstruction of justice, and treason, serious breaches of the Code of Conduct, and violations of protocols concerning the handling of information that comes to the House intelligence community from foreign sources, such as Derkach, concealment and deception, lack of integrity, and ethical improprieties. Close quote. Nunes, not easy to say, attorneys stated that Maddow aired the spurious allegations because, quote, MSNBC and Maddow harbor an institutional hostility, hatred, extreme bias, spite, and ill will towards plaintiff due to plaintiff's emergence as the most prominent skeptic in Congress of Maddow's marquee news narrative from 2017 to 2019 that the Trump campaign colluded with Russians to hack the 2016 presidential elections, close quote. Nunes could face an uphill battle against Maddow because at least one judge has already ruled that Maddow's viewers are aware that statements Maddow makes on her show may not be, quote, fact. And that, of course, came from the ruling that happened after One American News Network sued Maddow because when she claimed that AHNC received money from the Russian government. Now, the thing is, the judge who ruled that was an Obama appointee named Judge Cynthia Bashant. And she ruled last May that Rachel Maddow's, quote, statements cannot be reasonably interpreted as allegations of fact, close quote. Yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. I don't know if OANN has appealed, but I think what you have to do is you have to understand Rachel Maddow does not put herself out there as an opinion person. She puts herself out there as a journalist. And when you state the things that she stated in that tweet and on the program without saying, I believe, I feel, or it appears to me, if you don't make any of those qualifiers, then you are making statements of fact. If I say, I'm going to make up a name because I don't want to get in trouble. If I say John Blagenthorfoff is a pedophile and he rapes goats in front of children, And don't say, in my opinion. That is a statement of fact. And John Blanca-Morphuff could sue me for slander and win. So I think, again, I don't know what OANN is doing in regards to that idiot Judge Bashant, but that's not an opinion. That's a statement of fact. But I really think that Nunes is going to charge hard. I don't know the two lawyers well. Stephen S. Biss I have heard of, but Sekaran I don't know anything about. But Nunes is not a poor man. His family has a very big agricultural operation in California, and they've had it in their family for generations. His family are immigrants. From I think Bulgaria. I think it's an Eastern European country where his family's from, but they emigrated in the 1900s and bought some land and then worked it. Pardon me, they worked as laborers, saved their money, then bought their land, and then grew from there. The typical American success story. By the way, America being the incredibly racist country that it is, allowed dirty migrants to move up the ladder from farm workers to major landholders, because America is, of course, incredibly racist. So we've got that going for us. Let's see. Part of the Bill Malugin story from Fox News from yesterday that I did not see early on. The headline also states not only that were there 7,000 COVID positive migrants released into McAllen since February, there were 1,500 of them in just the last week. Just the last week. How many did McAllen? Let's see how many. Let's see if there's a number as to how many. Okay, there's no numbers to see how many McAllen is estimating it's gotten so far in total. In a statement announcing the building of new temporary shelters to deal with a, quote, rapidly escalating, unquote, surge of immigrants being released into the border city, McAllen warned of the release of thousands of migrants with COVID-19. Yeah, this is a quote from Ted Cruz from yesterday on America Reports. I watched this. Pardon me, listened to it. I wasn't watching anything yesterday. That is unacceptable, and they keep doing it. Joe Biden likes to talk about this pandemic. Well, I'll tell you what, the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris was a super spreader event because their open border is endangering not just the people of Texas, but people all across the country. And that's exactly correct. Why, if you're a New Yorker, do you have to have a COVID vaccine passport in order to do anything regarding normal life aside from just walking up and down the street? Whereas if you're an illegal from anywhere in the world presenting at the southern border, you just walk across and you're done. That's it. It's been going on that way since February. No one said a word. They're just now talking about vaccinating people. And again, will there be medical screenings before they get that jab? And are they going to use the J&J or are they going to use Pfizer like they were using in Tijuana? Because if they use Pfizer or Moderna, are they going to make those people hang around for 2 weeks and then they'll get their second dose? If that happens, where are they going to stay? And how are they going to be forced to show up for that second shot?
Hi there.
These are questions that aren't going to be answered by anyone in authority because they don't care. They're just making it up as they go along. All right, let's move on to the Epoch Times. Let me refresh it here. All right, there's a feud between DeSantis and Biden right now, and Biden is losing big time. Let's see here. I want to see, where's the video? There's a video of DeSantis launching on Biden. I really want to play that. Let me see if I can. Let's see here. All right, I'll just go with this. quoting Biden. The escalation of cases is particularly concentrated in states with low vaccination rates. Just 2 states, Florida and Texas, account for 1/3 of all new COVID cases in the entire country. Just 2 states. Biden said that 2 days ago. Quoting him further, look, we need leadership from everyone, and if some governors aren't willing to do the right thing to beat this pandemic, then they should allow businesses and universities who want to do the right thing to be able to do it. I say to these governors, please help. But if you aren't going to help, at least get out of the way of people who are trying to do the right thing. Yeah, F you old man. Okay, asked about Biden's comments, White House Press Secretary Psaki, and by the way, in case you're wondering who that is, Jen Psaki is the arrogant, condescending, I hate when I do that, dismissive, mendacious, passive-aggressive, patronizing, self-righteous, smug, lying White House Press Secretary, that Jen Psaki. She said, there are leaders who are not stepping up and getting in the way of the American people, companies, and others who are trying to save lives and stop the spread of Delta. DeSantis responded at a briefing in Florida, noting that while campaigning, Biden vowed to, quote, shut down the virus. But DeSantis said, and what has he done? He's imported more virus from around the world by having a wide open southern border. You have hundreds of thousands of people pouring across every month. DeSantis also accused the Biden administration of ignoring science that indicates people who recover from the Chinese Communist Party virus enjoy a strong immunity against reinfection. Quoting, he rejects science because he denies the fact that people that recover from COVID have long-lasting immunity. DeSantis has said the virus is seasonal and he expects the metrics to drop soon, while noting that deaths have remained low. On August 4th, he said people can make their own decisions about what precautions to take. Quote, I think the question is, we can either have a free society or we can have a biomedical security state, and I can tell you, Florida, we're a free state. Joe Biden, continuing the quote, Joe Biden suggests that if you don't do lockdown policies, then you should get out of the way. But let me tell you this, if you're coming after the rights of parents in Florida, I'm standing in your way. I'm not going to let you get away with it. If you're trying to ruin their jobs and their livelihoods and their small businesses, if you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way, and I'm standing for the people of Florida. So why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you. I also heard him, someone else quote him as saying, I don't want to hear flip about COVID from you. That's how I heard it when I saw that clip. But I will let the Epoch Times have their variants of that if they so care. But yeah, that was, and again, how's Biden going to come back against that? Where the thing about Biden is, if he's off script, he can't help but being an idiot. If when he takes these little moments where he lets his brain run and tries to attack political rivals, he opens himself up to such a wider attack because he is so attackable. It's part of me using the same word twice. He is so vulnerable, is the word I wanted, to any type of pushback because of the horrible job he's doing. He's losing on every front. He's underwater on his polls now. His dislikes are higher than his likes in the polls now. I think his last one showed him at 48%. approval. That's down from 58% just a few months ago. He's in Trump territory now. And Biden has every arm of the mainstream media at his disposal. They're not covering the border at all. They're not covering specifically the COVID cases pouring across the border. They're not covering the children being housed in inhumane conditions all across the country in secret locations, being bused and flown all across the country in the middle of the night to areas where no one is notified that they're there, being held for literally months in hellish conditions, to the point where children are considering suicide to get out of the horrific living conditions they have to put up with every minute of every day. And the press isn't covering that at all. I read you that whistleblower report from last week in full, every word of it. I read every word of it to you. Those people have no reason to lie. They're government employees. And we've seen what Democrats do to whistleblowers. They put them in jail. Obama had a really good run of putting whistleblowers in jail. He enjoyed it. And Biden learned everything he knows from Obama. He's forgotten 99% of it. But he still remembers a little bit, and I'm sure that's one of them. Okay. Here's a gun story. This is from the Epoch Times by Zachary Steiber. Oh, they have links to their bios now. Zachary Steiber covers U.S. news, including politics and court cases. He started at the Epoch Times as a New York City Metro reporter, and there's a profile for him. Oh, that's good addition. Good addition, guys. Let me catch up with the chat here before I get into this article. JF says, quote, in my personal opinion, means a lot with this kind of slander without naming their sources. Yeah, exactly. Talking about the Rachel Maddow thing. So you're dead on there, JF. So nice to have you. By the way, JF, thanks so much for your well wishes yesterday. I really appreciate it. I did see a few of the chats before I shrank all the windows and put the mask on and laid down. But so I really appreciate your help or your thoughts with that. That helps a lot, knowing that you guys are there for me. So I appreciate it. Let's see. Just 2.8 million background checks were done in the month of July, down approximately 5% from June, 39% from March, the highest month ever, and 20% from July 2020. It's the fifth consecutive month overall checks have dropped. Demand for guns and gun-related items, blah, blah, blah. Still, demand for guns remain high, according to adjusted figures from the National Shooting Sports Foundation, the NSSF, the one gun rights organization I don't belong to. NSSF, the Firearms Industries Trade Group, breaks down the FBI's background check numbers, separating checks done only for gun sales. NSSF said nearly 1.3 million checks were conducted for a gun in July, which was down 30% compared to the adjusted figure of 1.8 million in July 2020, but slightly up from June. That means about 11 million gun checks have been done so far this year, after 21 million were carried out in 2020. Let's see here. Yeah, whatever, Saki, whatever. Oh, okay. Another January 6th case result. Also by Zachary Steiber. A Virginia couple was sentenced by a judge on August 4th to home confinement for entering the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th breach. Joshua Bussell was sentenced to 30 days of confinement at home, while his wife Jessica was ordered to 60 days of home confinement. U.S. District Judge Thomas Hogan, a Reagan appointee, also sentenced the couple to 24 months probation and ordered them to pay $500 each in restitution. The couple pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor charge of parading, demonstrating, or picketing in the Capitol building in return for 3 other charges being dropped. They weren't accused of carrying out any violent acts. Lawyers for the couple argued in court that their punishments should be no different than the first January 6 defendant to be sentenced, who received only probation for a misdemeanor offense. The judge allowed a delay to the start of home confinement so the Bussells can complete a planned move to South Carolina. No, it's all right. All right. I think, what is that now? We're 2 for 3 on misdemeanor convictions. Okay. All right. We'll move on to the Daily Caller. Oh, let me refresh it. These are stale. These are from the other day. I forgot to refresh them when I went live. Before I went live, pardon me. Oh, here we go. This is interesting. A little COVID news here. U.S. Intel gains access to treasure trove. That's a quote of hidden data on Wuhan lab viruses. Daily Caller News Foundation's Michael Ginsberg reporting. The data includes virus genomes that scientists at WIV studied. Sources familiar with the data collection told CNN. However, intelligence agencies are reportedly struggling to process the data due to the sheer quantity of it and the fact that it is in Mandarin. The agencies are reportedly using supercomputers at the Department of Energy to process the virus data, but do not have enough Mandarin-speaking biologists to aid the effort. The new data analysis will not be able to fully prove whether or not the Chinese Communist Party virus leaked from the WIV, sources familiar with the investigation told CNN. However, the analysis will be able to help scientists and intelligence officials construct, quote, a narrative of the origins of SARS-CoV, close quote, according to one source. In other words, folks, if they can dial all this in and figure it out, they could show absolute progression of gain of function. If what they've got is what it sounds like, then they could track this virus all the way back to when it first came in the lab. And that's what this sounds like. Again, now I don't know for sure, and I certainly don't speak Mandarin, and I don't have access to the Department of Energy's supercomputer that you know of. Although you have to wonder how it is I'm able to run all these games at such high graphics levels. You wonder. I'm not saying. Let's just say the VPN is always up. But this could be big. This could be really big. It'll be interesting to see if the data is released. That is what I want to know. Will the Intel community step up to the plate? All right. Well, this is interesting. Staff of largest LGBTQ advocacy group, easy for me to say, reportedly demand President resign for helping Cuomo discredit #MeTooAccuser. This is from the DCNF by Mary Margaret Olahan. Pardon me, Mary Margaret. Good, nice Italian girl, Mary Margaret Olahan. A couple bullet points here. Members of the Human Rights Campaign, HRC, not Hillary, are reportedly calling for their president to resign after an investigation by the New York Attorney General's office found that he helped Andrew Cuomo discredit one of the governor's accusers. The Huffington Post obtained a recording of an HRC all-staff meeting. It says AHRC. Shame on you, Daily Caller. An HRC all-staff meeting that took place Wednesday in which employees criticized President Alfonso David for several hours and repeatedly called on him to resign. Quote, Alfonso, we will band together and take this to the board to request your resignation. Are you willing to take down our org with you? According to the recording. Excuse me. Alfonso David served as part of Cuomo's council from 2015 to 2019 and reportedly told employees that he, quote, knew nothing and, quote, saw nothing adding that, again quoting, "No one ever disclosed allegations of harassment with me, either during or after I worked in state service." "Will you be resigning?" one staffer reportedly asked David. "Alfonso, we will band together." Oh, I just read that. David publicly called on Cuomo to resign in a Tuesday evening tweet after Letitia James, the AG, announced the investigation found the governor had, quote, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. A report on the investigation implicates David in Cuomo's efforts to discredit accuser Lindsey Boylan, who accused the governor of sexual harassment, of kissing her on the lips and asking her to play strip poker. David reportedly provided confidential files on Boylan to senior Cuomo advisors, participated in the drafting of a letter discrediting Boylan, and sought out women to provide positive statements about the governor, according to a report on the investigation by the New York AG's office. And there is a picture of Alfonso David here, far right, with Glenda Testone, I'm not sure, probably Testone, Cuomo himself, and Charles King, and then Alfonso David on the far right. This is their press conference announcing the blueprint to end AIDS back in New York on April 29th, 2015. That picture hasn't aged well, David. Hasn't aged well at all. The HRC extended David's contract for 5 more years on Tuesday, the same day the report was released. The decision to extend his contract had already been in the works and only coincidentally occurred the same day the report came out, according to HuffPo. David reportedly kept confidential files, quote, relating to his investigation into and counseling, close quote, of Boylan before she left the executive chamber, according to the report. The report also said that David provided these files to Cuomo's senior advisor, Richard Azzopardi, on December 11, 2020, shortly after Boylan began tweeting about Cuomo. Quote, quoting the report, "Mr. David testified that he kept with him a copy of Ms. Boylan's files because it, quote, may have been the only instance where he was actually involved in a counseling of an employee when he was in the executive chamber," close quote. See. The various drafts. Let me back up a little bit. Cuomo senior advisor staffer Melissa DeRosa told other staffers in a December 16, 2020 text message that David had agreed to sign a letter attempting to discredit Boylan, quote, "if we need him," unquote. The report also said that David had initially declined to sign the letter. Quoting the investigation further, the various drafts of this letter included complaints against Ms. Boylan that were part of the confidential files. The drafts also discussed alleged interactions between Ms. Boylan and male colleagues other than the governor. The report said the letter, quote, denied the legitimacy of Ms. Boylan's allegations, impugned her credibility, and attacked her claims as politically motivated, including with theories about connections with supporters of President Trump and a politician with an alleged interest in running for governor. During Wednesday's meeting, an employee reportedly asked David if he planned to, quote, issue a public apology for agreeing to sign a draft letter disparaging an accuser while serving as president of HRC, per the AG's report. David responded he never signed the letter or agreed to sign the letter. Quote, "What I did agree to do was talk about my personal experience at the governor's office," he said, according to HuffPo, "but I never agreed to sign a letter that would disparage any employees or any survivor of harassment." David also worked with senior Cuomo officials on a, quote, more positive model statement from women describing positive experiences working for Cuomo and characterizing the governor as, quote, strong, tough, respectful, inclusive, and effective, according to the report. Interestingly enough, there's not one comma between any of those adjectives. So whoever wrote that needs to be tarred and feathered. It just gets better and better. I'm going to have to read that report into the record, I think. I've got Sunday afternoon off, as I always do. So I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, mark your calendar. Sunday afternoon, I'll do a live reading of the AG report into the record. And that ought to be fun. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is interesting. I don't know if you guys caught this or not. The Richard Trumka, the head of the AFL-CIO, died. Just flat out died today. No one saw it coming. He wasn't known for being in ill health. He was a very fat man, as you can see in the picture here. He was never known for being in shape, but 72 years old, and he dropped dead. Trumka first joined a labor union as a mine worker. In 1982, he was elected as the youngest president of the United Mine Workers of America at the age of 33 and helped unite the union's leadership. The late AFL-CIO president had also been an outspoken supporter of President Butt diaper wearer and endorsed before the 2020 election. Less than a month after Biden was sworn in, Trumka attended a private White House meeting concerning infrastructure legislation and other priorities. A teary-eyed Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said today, "The working people of America have lost a fierce warrior." Wow. Your head is that far up the ass of the unions? Wow. Chuck Schumer cries for the weirdest things. Have you noticed that? Didn't Trump call him crying Chuck? I believe that was his phrase for Schumer, crying Chuck. God, he cries. I mean, he doesn't cry at the same weird times as Adam Kinzinger and Adam Schiff for brains, but still, he is coming from someone who cries all the time. You guys know that. I'm very sentimental. The slightest thing trips me up. Those reunion stories where you see servicemen surprise family members. See, I'm tearing up just talking about it. I'm thinking one in particular. When they surprise family members when they come home from overseas, you know, when they don't let their commander put up advance notice that they're returning. The reason I'm tearing up, and you might have heard my voice catch it, literally catched. I saw this video. Mark Levin plays them at the beginning of his Life, Liberty, and Levin shows on Blaze TV. Again, another excellent reason to join Blaze TV. And especially, if you've got the time, you've got to watch the Jason Whitlock show, Fearless. Finally got his name right, Jason Whitlock, Fearless. I swear to God, that show has changed my life. The things he has said. And he comes out and admits he is a sinful man. But he has reached out, he has reaffirmed his Christianity, and he is such a smart and insightful person. Guy who came up as a sports writer. And he has just completely expanded his area of influence and expertise. I gotta watch that show. I don't know if it's on YouTube or not. A lot of the Blaze shows are on YouTube. You have the commercials, of course. But gotta watch him. You gotta watch him. But anyway, so as I was saying, so Levin plays these feel-good stories at the beginning of his shows now. He used to play them at the end, but he's actually copying me by starting off with a fun thing. So I taught Levin everything he knows. Ha! And he's only got 300,000 more subscribers than I do. times 300,000 times more subscribers than I do. But anyway, it was the typical service member walks in the place in uniform, surprises a family member, and they hug. But damn, this particular one, he's a triplet, and they were all very, very close. They all served. Two of them became sergeants. One became a specialist, and the other two had gotten out, and he was, and again, the third was in Afghanistan. So he walks into the basically Circle K. No, it was a big store, really, more like a large truck stop kind of place. Big, lots of displays, big area for people to move around, and one of his triplets, brothers, pardon me, was behind the counter. And he's not a small man. And the soldier walks through the door and just stops. He's a good 6 feet, 8 feet away from the counter. And you see his brother, he's not quite in the camera. And then there's this blur of something going over the counter. And the next thing is the fiercest hug I have ever seen in my life. I don't know how Vin doesn't crack up like I do when he watches those. You can tell he tears up a little bit, but I lose it. I just flat out lose it. But I've never, and that's the word I would use. It was a fierce hug. I've never seen two people so close before. Just amazing, absolutely amazing. And I'm doing this, talking about Chuck Schumer crying over the death of Richard Trumka. So go figure. Go figure. Oh, excellent. Here's some good news. Here's some really good news. This is also from the DCNF by Nicole Silverio. There it is. Nicole Silverio. A nice Irish girl. 2 women plead guilty to hate crimes after video showed them violently confronting Trump supporters. Police arrested Olivia Winslow and Cameron Amy after viral footage showed the defendants tearing a Trump supporter sign and grabbing a Make America Great Again hat. The women pleaded guilty to misdemeanor charges of theft, hate crimes, and child endangerment. Misdemeanor? Misdemeanor? That was felony assault. They shoved that kid. That's on video. They shoved that kid. The suspects will be sentenced in September. Prosecutors said that they will be seeking a probation sentence without jail time. Wow. Prosecutors dropped charges of assault, attempted assault, and conspiracy as part of a plea deal. In case you don't remember, let me quote you some of the lines from the video. The person who filmed it, Amy Wigton, said, "Are you destroying my property?" And then the 7-year-old, her son, can be heard saying, "That's somebody else's hat." Because he said that because the woman stole his hat and walked away with it. So he's trying to tell her, hey, that's theft. The upset child told his mother to call 911. Moments later, the footage appeared to show Amy punching an unidentified man in the face as he attempted to retrieve the hat. She can then be seen throwing the hat over a fence. Winslow said, "We will knock you the F out." The footage ended with Amy approaching Wigton and appearing to hit her camera. Wow. Wigton released a statement that said, quote, "They ripped the sign from my arms and assaulted my 7-year-old son. The Joe Biden supporters laid hands on my child and ripped his Make America Great Again hat from his head while cursing at him and pushing him over," she alleged. It's not alleged. It's on video. Misdemeanor. I think we all remember that video quite vividly, because I certainly do. I saw it multiple times, and I got more and more angry every time I saw it. Those people were attacked for nothing more than supporting someone from an opposing political party. That's it. It's the only reason. Those 2 women could have made up other reasons in their heads as to what those people were, but that's all conjecture. That's all opinion. The fact is they were nothing more than political opponents. And they viciously attacked them and destroyed their property. And they were pled down to misdemeanors. That is disgusting. That is disgusting. Well, it's in Delaware, so gee, go figure. Joe Biden's home state, the Delaware way, continues on. Wow. I am, boy, I've gone the complete alpha and omega here, the nadir, pardon me, the apogee and the nadir. I was feeling so great about the triplet story, and now I am absolutely enraged over this. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. This just came out a couple hours ago. CNN fires. Oh, this is the Post-Millennial, by the way. It's written by James Anthony. CNN fires 3 employees for, quote, coming to the office unvaccinated. Oliver Darcy, who works at CNN, has announced on Thursday on his Twitter account that 3 CNN employees have been summarily dismissed from their jobs for coming to the office unvaccinated. God, I was hoping it was Oliver Darcy who was one of those who were fired. The man does not deserve to have any kind of a job in journalism whatsoever. And, well, I'm sorry, he works for CNN. He does not have a job in journalism. I apologize for the mischaracterization. Please forgive me for the misstatement. Let's see here. Jeff Zucker says in a memo to staff that CNN has postponed the September 7th return to office date and is now targeting mid-October. Quote, this was not an easy decision and there is much to consider. The bottom line is, based on the information that is available today, in the past week, we have been made aware of 3 employees who were coming to the office unvaccinated. All 3 have been terminated. Let me be clear, we have a zero-tolerance policy on this. Wow. Wow, wow, and wow. Probably the best thing that's ever happened to them. Now they have to get real jobs. Let's see here. Ooh, this looks good. This is Hannah Nightingale, one of my favorites at the Post-Millennial. Let's see here. In response to bad press VP Harris has received in her first 6 months in office, a group of influential women in the Democratic Party held a dinner in D.C. to figure out how to defend. Ha! Freudian slip. That's a Freudian slip, diaper wearer. That's a Freudian slip. How to defend Harris and her chief of staff, Tina Flournoy. According to Axios, Democratic public affairs expert and former advisor to both Clintons, Kiki McLean hosted the dinner. Among those who attended were 2 former DNC officials, Donna Brazile and Leah Daughtry. Oh, there's a power couple. Harris confidant Minion Moore, another loser. Former Hillary Clinton spokeswoman and Democratic strategist Adrienne Elrod and Karen Finney. Oh, God. What a murderer's row. Literally. Biden advisor and leader of his outside group, Stephanie Cutter, and former Obama White House communications director, Jennifer Palmieri. Palmieri was known as being a distinct and utter liar time after time. No one from the vice president's office attended the dinner. Ha! That right there is worth the price of admission. My subscription to the Post-Millennial just paid for itself. The guests reportedly spent dinner discussing how to fight back against negative perceptions of Harris and boost her overall media footing nationwide. In a recent poll, it was revealed that Harris is the most unpopular vice president in 50 years. Oh, I hadn't seen that poll. With her approval dipping as she allegedly avoided the southern border and had refused to talk about it in early June. One person familiar with the dinner said, quote, the point of it was how can this group be supportive from the outside? Again quoting, it was less about how do you sort out the infrastructure of her operation, and it was more how can this group contribute to make sure that not only is her team making the most of this moment, as the first woman of color in the White House, but how can we help from the outside? Some attendees reportedly said that much of the coverage surrounding Harris contains sexist overtones. That's a quote. According to one source, guests discussed how they could, quote, make sure the press knows this. A source said, quote, many of us lived through the Clinton campaign and want to help curb some of the gendered dynamics in press coverage that impacted Clinton. It was like, quote, we've seen this before, it's subtle, but when things aren't going well for a male politician, we ask very different questions, and they're not held to account the way a woman leader is. Oh, God in heaven, God in heaven. Once again, folks, feminists cannot keep the narrative straight. For years, third wave feminists has been screaming, women are just like men. Anything a woman can do, a man can do. But at the same time, the Me Too movement is a thing. Now remember, a lot of the Me Too movement was not physical aggression. It was lingering glances. Questions like, where'd you get your nails done? They're beautiful. Or, I really like that dress today. That was a lot of the Me Too stuff on Twitter. A lot of it. And Twitter just egged it on and egged it on. It was a complete and utter closed loop. So here's Harris, supposedly a strong, independent, capable woman who can't handle the press. That's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. It tells you everything you need to know about Democrats and feminists. Everything you need to know. Moving right along. Oh, this looks interesting. This is from Right Now. Critical race theory flies in the face of the Federal Civil Rights Act by presuming that racial disparities are the result of racial discrimination, a federal appeals court judge wrote in a concurrence. A black property owner alleged that a Texas navigation district, what the hell's a navigation district, committed racial discrimination by threatening to condemn properties and conspiring with city officials to keep property values low in his neighborhood so it could acquire them for a channel improvement project. Okay. A waterway. Got it. Okay. The east end of Freeport was created as a, quote, Negro reservation, unquote, and remains majority-minority, though Hispanics heavily outnumber blacks. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals rejected Manning Rollerson's racial discrimination claim because he didn't allege, quote, facts supporting the contention that racial discrimination played some supporting role in the port's decision-making, close quote, which has a, again quoting, legitimate motivation in the need to acquire land around the Velasco terminal. Judge James Ho, nominated by President Trump, joined most of the opinion but wrote separately to express his concerns about, quote, unelected agency officials usurping Congress's authority when it comes to disparate impact theory, unquote, which lies behind Rollerson's lawsuit. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act targets intentional racial discrimination, not neutral policies untainted by racial intent that happen to lead to a racially disproportionate outcome, Ho wrote, quote, there's a big difference between prohibiting racial discrimination and endorsing disparate impact theory. It's the difference between securing equality of opportunity regardless of race and guaranteeing equal opportunity of outcome based on race. It's the difference between colorblindness and critical race theory. Close quote. He contrasted Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, which seeks a nation where children will not be judged by the color of their skin, with the book How to Be an Anti-Racist by critical race theorist and all-around liar, hustler, and cheat Ibram X. Kendi, which deems racist, quote, any measure that produces or sustains racial inequity between racial groups, close quote. And I am stating a fact, and I would love for Ibram X. Kendi to come after me and prove me wrong. I'm ready, because I've got some legal institutions that I donate to that would be more than happy to take up the case. So bring it on, Ibram. So Ho also continued that racial balancing is, quote, patently unconstitutional. It also requires, quote, a legal presumption that evidence of racial imbalance is evidence of racial discrimination, close quoting, which runs headlong into the bedrock principle of innocent until proven guilty. The result is often racial discrimination in the servants of balancing, he said. Quote, my point is simply this. If disparate impact theory is going to be incorporated into federal law, it should be done by Congress, not agency regulators. Citizens, again quoting, are understandably skeptical when government officials claim that they're just here to help, but then declare that up is down, left is right, race consciousness is good, and race neutrality is bad. Cornell law professor William Jacobson flagged the concurrence in a Monday blog post, calling Ho, quote, a likely Supreme Court nominee when Republicans regain the White House. Oh, I would love that. I would love to see that. That's what we need. We need some Trump federal judges like, well, I won't say like, we've had some issues with Coney Barrett. She hasn't been the complete legal stud we had hoped for. I blame the influence of John Roberts Jr. 90% for that. He is the Chief Justice, so he does hold a lot of sway in the meetings. But anyway, Jacobson told Just the News it was his first mention of critical race. It was the first mention of critical race theory or Kendi by name in a court opinion that he had seen. Quote, Judge Ho's views are constitutionally correct, as well as correct under existing anti-discrimination law. I read ahead. Anti-discrimination law, he wrote in an email. Again quoting, it is only a matter of time before the court system is forced to confront racism in the name of so-called anti-racism. Well, that's good news. That's good news. Cori Bush, again. Give me a break. By the way, let's talk briefly about something that happened yesterday that I heard about. I understand that diaperware, that's my new name, by the way, 46 asterisk is too hard to pronounce. Diaperware has decided that even though he doesn't have the legal authority to do it himself, and the Centers for Disease Control doesn't have the legal authority to do it either, according to a Supreme Court ruling, he is still going to have them extend the eviction moratorium. After being told specifically last year that their extensions would not be allowed, that they were unconstitutional, but that first one was only being allowed because of the exigent circumstances of the virus. He even said in the press conference, this won't pass constitutional muster. That is an impeachable offense. Part of your job as president, in fact, the main job of as president, is to uphold the Constitution. And by proposing strongly a policy for one of his executive agencies to perform, I'm sorry, the CDC isn't an executive agency. I'm sorry. It's not technically a government agency, but it's funded by the government, but it's not technically a government agency. But to tell the CDC to do what they were told is illegal, that is an impeachable offense. Remember, that's what they were screaming about Trump all the time. Everything he did was impeachable, was him tearing up the Constitution, that he was a fascist. Those are the nicest things they said about him. Now, of course, every legal challenge that was made against him, he won either outright or after some small modifications to the original issuance, like the first travel ban he instituted, that, of course, everyone lied and called a Muslim ban, as if everyone living in any of those countries, which were all picked by Obama, by the way, in December as he was leaving. He was the one who proposed limiting travel from those countries. Trump just added one. Countries that were not in any way 100% Muslim. But again, everything Trump did, they had to lie about in order to make it sound bad, because if you looked at it at face value, you could see that it actually made sense. But that was the only thing he did, and that was the first thing he did. That was challenged in court, and he lost. And he changed the wording of the policy, and it went through. Everything else, he won. And since then, he's won more and more and more. The only thing he's lost so far is his trying to keep his tax records from the Ways and Means Committee, which I think is going to go to SCOTUS because they don't have oversight over an ex-president. They have no viable reason that they have proposed to show why they should have a look at his taxes, both personal and corporate, while the IRS has been auditing him for decades consecutively. What are they going to do that the IRS hasn't been able to do? Nothing. They just want to get them so they can leak them to the press. Now, I'm betting there's nothing there. That the only reason they want it so bad is because Trump fought so hard to keep them out of the public eye while the audits were going on. He didn't want to have to fight a battle on two fronts. But once again, the DOJ, under Merrick Garland, has proven itself to be an absolute shell of what it's supposed to be. And again, the antithesis of what it's supposed to be. It has become a political hit machine. We've seen all the lawsuits they've prompted, written up, and are ready to file against any state that does a election audit, like what's going on in Arizona. We see, I think actually the audit's over in Arizona. Now we're just waiting for the tabulations, if I'm not mistaken. Because they decided they weren't going to do the canvassing that they had talked about a couple of weeks ago. That was taken off the table. There was too much of implication of voters' intimidation by asking people, "Hey, did you get this? Did you mail it? Who did you vote for?" That could be seen as intimidation. So I could understand that. I would like for there to be a legal way to do a canvass, but I don't see that there is one. So that made sense to me. But those lawsuits have been threatened continuously. They tried to step in several times in Arizona, specifically, and they were told to step back or you're going to lose your fingers. And obviously, what they're doing to the January 6th internees, political prisoners, really. Oh, here we go. Wisconsin officials tie nearly 500 COVID-19 cases to Milwaukee NBA championship parade. JustTheNews.com by Misty Severi. I'm not familiar with that name. She's new. Roughly 6,500 fans surrounded the arena during the championship game between the Bucks and Phoenix Suns. Milwaukee Health Commissioner Kirsten Johnson, I knew a Kirsten in high school, confirmed Tuesday that 491 positive cases were linked to the celebration and said it could explain the increase of cases in the city. Quote, "We encourage anyone who has attended a large gathering, such as the watch party in the Deer District, to get tested for the virus due to the increased risk of transmission." Johnson said to combat the rising cases, the state will be boosting its contact tracing program and are in talks with entertainment venues to provide proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test in order to attend events. Yeah, screw you. By the way, folks, breaking news. Picasso Knows and I had a conversation the other day. I had an epiphany watching, believe it or not, a Jason Whitlock interview between him and Steven Crowder. As you guys know, Steven Crowder's had heart surgery. He's been out, and I guess he's still out, as I understand it. He's been having problems with fluid collecting in his chest. He had you may not know, Steven Crowder had a birth defect where his sternum is inverted and is actually pressing into his chest. He had a thing he did on the show one time where he took bets around the studio as to how many coffee beans could be put in his chest before they would start to fall over and roll down his chest. And I think the highest bet was 25. They got up to 98. 98 coffee beans before finally one rolled off his chest. And he's been complaining for years about high heart rate whenever he was sitting up, especially when he was doing a show. He says sometimes during the show his heart rate can get as high as 170 beats per minute. And doctor after doctor told him it's stress, you're high strung, yada yada yada. So he finally went to the Mayo Clinic in Arizona. They have an outlet in Arizona. I didn't know that until honestly just last week. And they diagnosed him with having his sternum pushing against the right side of his heart so much that its pump capacity is reduced by half when he's sitting up. When he's lying down, his heart's just fine. But as soon as he sits up, his heart moves forward because of gravity, and his sternum is pressing right against it, and his lungs expand in such a way that his heart is just being crushed. So what they're doing is, or what they've done, I should say, is they've taken 3 titanium bands. They're spacer bands. They're bowed like this, and they have clips on each end that extend out to the ribs. And what they did is they inserted the 3 bands under his ribs and beneath his breastbone, his sternum, that right there, the thing that your ribs connect to in the middle of your chest. That's your sternum, your breastbone. And they took these 3 bands, spaced about that far apart, and put them underneath the sternum. And over time, that pressure is going to push the sternum away and give his heart finally the room it needs to beat properly. I don't know how long it's supposed to take. I guess at least a year, if I remember correctly. Even if I don't remember specifically, definitely at least a year. And it's not going to feel normal. I mean, he's going to have a physical pressure against his sternum on 3 pressure points from the back of his chest. So no one's not going to notice that. He can't do any lifting beyond a few pounds. No running, things like that. And he's a big health nut. He works out every day. He takes care of himself. And he can't do jiu-jitsu while these are in his chest either. So he thinks he's a better coach than he is a wrestler. So he's going to enjoy doing that. But he's been doing jiu-jitsu in one form or another since he was a kid. His dad's a very highly rated wrestler, jiu-jitsu wrestler. But now that they're going to take him out eventually, as you might expect, and that'll be easy. They just undo the clips that are holding them in place on either side of the rib cage and slide them out, like pulling a bone out of a piece of spare rib. But putting them in is going to be has been, I should say, was a bitch. But they're in. But at the last I saw last week, he's had some 5.5 liters of fluid drained from his chest since the surgery. I haven't seen a video since then. I guess one came out today, an update. But he was supposed to be back in the studio last week, or Monday. Sorry, Monday. I forgot what day it is. But yeah. Oh, and Scully mentions Crowder is to be a daddy. Yes, he has twins on the way. His wife is visibly pregnant. She had a miscarriage last year. It was devastating for them. But she was able to bounce right back. And she's got twins, I believe twin boys, if I'm not mistaken. I would like to welcome Miss Sienna to the Trovo chat. I'm afraid to say we're not going to be here much longer, but I'll have an update on the schedule in just a little bit. But thank you for coming to the show. I appreciate it. So yeah, folks, it seems that the virus doesn't care if your team won the championship either. But I guess your team winning, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy for the Bucks. They haven't. That team hasn't won a championship in something like 50 years. And God bless them. They've come close several times, but they always collapse in the playoffs. I guess last year they were on the way to being the best team in the league, but the COVID hit and shut down the season, and they lost their mojo and didn't do well in the bubble in Orlando. But God bless them for winning. And I don't begrudge anyone going out and having a good time. You caught the COVID. Okay. If you're a healthy person, you'll be fine. Most likely. Most likely you'll be fine. If not, There's treatment out there. There's treatment out there. The death rate from this virus is 10 times less than it was back in January. 10 times less. Overall. Some areas have a much better treatment ratio than that. There are some hospital systems that don't have the same idiotic restrictions on treatments that others do, like my hospital system. They're doing very well. Very well. Obviously, since I'm still on YouTube, I can't say any more than that. By the way, again, I am seriously considering stopping streaming on YouTube altogether, both the afternoon show and the game show in the mornings and Saturday afternoons. I'm just not getting the crossover from YouTube to DLive and Trovo like I would like. I don't see the need to make a special effort to include YouTube when nobody's coming. Today was the first day ever I had a YouTube chatter during Skyrim. I'm glad they were there. They gave me a recipe for the most awesome potion. Just the most awesome potion. I made a bunch of it. But that's the first ever. And I've been streaming for how long now? 5 months, 6 months? Games. So that's something to consider. All right. Let's see what else we've got here on justthenews.com. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the worst thing ever. You guys remember I covered the story Tuesday about, I'm pretty sure it was Tuesday, about a woman in Minnesota who was, I can't say it on YouTube, but she was, part of her was taken off by an attacker. The part that's above your neck. And in the middle of the street at 2:30 in the afternoon. We had the name of the suspect. We understood that he was in an abusive relationship with the victim. But now I have this headline from justthenews.com by Sophie Mann. The suspect in that, and you can see what happened on the screen there. Again, I can't say that word on YouTube. But the suspect in the murder is an illegal immigrant, according to ICE. Let's get into the article here. The 42-year-old man who allegedly separated something from a woman's neck in Minnesota last week is an illegal immigrant, according to U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The agency has identified the person arrested as Alexis Sabrit Viltres, a Cuban citizen unlawfully in the U.S. ICE also said the agency did not place a detainer on him following his arrest on second-degree murder charges. Did not place a detainer. I hope that's a word that shouldn't have been there. This guy is the epitome of what should be kicked out of this country, even under the relaxed rules that diaper wear and his ICE, his DHS people, toadies, are promoting right now. Sabrit Viltres' criminal history reportedly includes multiple convictions in Minnesota and several in Louisiana for crimes including domestic abuse, DUI, and fleeing from a police officer. He also has charges pending against him for first-degree arson, criminal damage to property, and obstruction of the legal process. ICE attempted in 2012 to remove him, but Cuba failed to approve the necessary travel documents for the transfer. He was ultimately released on an order of supervision. I don't know who his supervisor is, but it seems they did a pretty poor job because a woman is dead now because of this guy. This time around, he was facing a charge of second-degree intentional murder in connection. Oh, July 28th. Okay, that's right. It happened last week, but I just saw the story this week. The July 28th killing of 55-year-old America Mafalda Thayer. That's her name, America Mafalda Thayer, who was executed with a machete in a car in the middle of a residential intersection. The murder was witnessed and filmed by multiple bystanders. That's an interesting method in a vehicle. I don't want to even begin to speculate as to how that happened. All right, an Ashley Babbitt story, and we'll be done. We'll do this story. I'll do my final Babylon Bee, and we'll be out for the day. Let's see here. Lawyer for Ashley Babbitt's family says fatal shot at client was, quote, an ambush with no command to halt. Authorities have identified the person who shot Babbitt only as a Capitol police officer. Again, I understand that the name is out there. I've heard it, but I can't remember it. And even if I could, I'm sure YouTube would give me would pull my channel for good if I mentioned it. Just like that name of a particular whistleblower who isn't a whistleblower, instead just a liar, who got Trump's first impeachment underway. But who am I to judge? Anyway, let's see. An attorney for the family of Ashley Babbitt says the police officer who fatally shot her failed to warn her before firing and, in fact, ambushed her. The attorney, Terry Roberts, made the allegation in an interview with Real Clear Investigations and in opposition to the attorney of the alleged officer who shot Babbitt, saying his client issued a loud and clear command. Roberts said, it's not debatable. There was no warning. I would call what he did an ambush. The Babbitt family and others are reportedly upset that the first hearing of the Democrat-led House committee on January 6 didn't address Babbitt's death. The 35-year-old Babbitt was fatally shot as she attempted to climb through a broken window in a barricaded door leading to the restricted speakers lobby off the House floor. The unarmed Babbitt, The unarmed Babbitt was an Air Force veteran and San Diego native. The Justice Department said in April it would not pursue charges against the unnamed officer because there was insufficient evidence, yada, yada, yada. Several sources have identified the shooter as Michael L., a name that is a name that is a homonym with things that are known in the avian family. Michael L., an avian creature, a 53-year-old veteran of the force who was serving as commander of the House Chamber Section of the Capitol Police on January 6. He has not returned to duty and remains on paid administrative leave. Attempts to reach the flighted egg layer were unsuccessful, according to Real Clear Investigations. Taylor, a Maryland personal injury lawyer, also argues the officer was standing outside of Babbitt's view when he took aim and shot at her. If Babbitt was not given the opportunity to obey commands before she was shot, it could figure prominently in the family's planned wrongful death suit against the officer, according to Real Clear Investigations. Roberts told the news website he has interviewed several witnesses who were standing outside the lobby with Babbitt and that they'll testify they did not hear the officer issue, quote, any kind of warning. Mark Schammel, the lawyer for the officer who allegedly shot Babbitt, says his client issued verbal commands and warnings to her. Quote Schammel, he was screaming, stay back, don't come in here. And Schammel says he has witness statements supporting his account. Yeah, who were the witnesses? It's going to be a he said, she said thing, folks. I think it's going to come down to the recordings there. And I have to admit, I've watched that recording only a couple of times because it is so damaging to my psyche to see that happen, but I don't remember hearing anything like that. There was a lot of noise in the lobby, don't get me wrong, but I don't remember hearing that on the video, so we'll have to see what happens. But folks, again, timing is everything, because I picked this Babylon Bee article before I even opened up one news source. And this is our bookend on the right from their U.S. section. January 6th rioter found innocent after discovery he just torched a small business across the street. And here we have a picture of two mostly peaceful protesters, one in a significant punk rock leather jacket with the requisite buttons and studded arms, and the social justice warrior, flame red tufted hair, and a paving brick. And next to him, also a perfectly normal person clad all in black, holding a Molotov cocktail. Obviously, mostly peaceful protesters. Dateline Washington, D.C., arrested and held in jail for 2 months for rioting in D.C. on January 6th. Notice, by the way, that the Epoch Times is using the consonants after the number, as opposed to the rest of the press that has no longer including that after the number, the date anymore. And from now on, it seems everyone just uses the number with nothing after it. So it's interesting. Anyway, on January 6th, Mr. Thomas Blackburn has been cleared of all charges after it came to light that, in fact, he had only burned down a black-owned small business across the street from the Capitol. Quote, "We deeply regret Mr. Blackburn's arrest. None of this should ever have happened," said Attorney General Merrick Garland. Quoting again, "While the Department of Justice has committed every resource to jailing anyone who came within 100 yards of the Capitol that day, we are equally committed to allowing small business owners to face death while their livelihoods are reduced to ashes. We were trying to protect ourselves while letting small businesses suffer, and Mr. Blackburn got caught in the crossfire. We at the DOJ have to own up to our mistakes, and accidentally nabbing a guy just trying to torch a jewelry store was a big one." Close quote. During the hearing, lawyers for Mr. Blackburn pointed out on security footage that the object in Mr. Blackburn's hands were clearly explosives and not selfie sticks, an almost certain sign of innocence. A man beaten senseless by Mr. Blackburn during the episode at the store came out of a coma in time to also testify on Mr. Blackburn's behalf, clearly placing the defendant at Jones Family Jewelers during the Capitol riot. The presiding judge immediately tossed the case after hearing the recently comatose man's stirring testimony. Mr. Blackburn's lawyer, Stan the Rhino Bigsby, is quoted, "Justice was done today. My client was only guilty of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, Congress feels threatened, and suddenly now we're prosecuting people for rioting? My client has been knocking over stores for months and not a peep. How is he to know a person could get prosecuted for looting and arson? Not that he doesn't feel remorse. He has assured me he will never loot a store that close to a gathering of politicians ever again." Close quote. For his part, Mr. Blackburn has stated that he, quote, "just wants this whole thing behind him," close quote, so he can go incinerate a Wendy's in peace. The Babylon Bee, everyone, doing the heavy lifting for us all. All right, so I'm not going to play the full learning curve since I've gone long. I need to keep these shorter so I can fit them into the Gab TV time window. It's only 2 hours. And 2 gigabytes, no more at all for either one, or I can't upload it. So I need to keep these shorter. So no learning curve today, but I will, of course, play the surprise ending for those of you who have not been here before. I won't give it away. But keep in mind, every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, if I'm up to it, which unfortunately isn't every day, there will be a news rodeo, 2 hours of fun, frivolity, and facts, not necessarily in that order. And also every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Eastern. I can't even read my own graphics. At 8 a.m. Eastern, I live stream PC games, and we're currently doing Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which is modded to the gills. I've got graphics mods in there that will pop the eyes out of your head, and I just bought a brand new house in Solitude. I can't wait to show it off. I've got room for 6 orphans. It's going to be beautiful. And I downloaded a character mod that would allow me to marry my current companion, Arania, whom I love. But also Saturday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern, I stream same. And quite often Saturday afternoons at 2:30 Eastern p.m. I do the same. But I can't guarantee those. It depends on how well I slept the night before. But that is all, good friends. So until the next time, and again, thanks to all you new people for being here. Be well, God bless, happy trails. And here is the first part and most important part. This is the most famous death scene in Far Cry 5 history. Here we go. There we go. Usually if it's grass, you can climb it. Wow. Oh, shoot! Dang it! Oh my God, in heaven, I got killed by a turkey! So, God, Ray, thank you so much for clipping that out. Ray Kimbrell, everyone, doing the heavy lifting, going through hours of YouTube archives to dig that out. Never had the time, and Ray just put in yeoman's work to bring that to everyone. So God bless you, good sir. God bless you. All right, folks. I will put in the words to the Meowcher cycle in just a moment. I'm just vamping to make sure that the stream catches up, so I don't kill it before the video is completed running, because some of the services have a longer delay than others. I'm watching the Trovo service right now, and it is well behind. But let's see. I think Dila's caught up. All right. So and Trovo is done. There we go. All right, good peoples. Bye-bye.